Shalom Israel, Shalom Part 2, man. Sorry about that. But like I was saying, this is for all you Egyptian having Israelites. At the first, this appears only as a fervent search for Jewish analogies, provoked by Aztec customs such as the eating only of unleavened bread on certain days of the year. So they're like, at first, yeah, it may seem like these dudes are reaching, right? But he's like, but for the fact that they only eat unleavened bread during certain days of the year. The prohibition of drinking liquids after the eating of certain ritual foods, and the use of baths for purification. In time, though, this begins to seem to Duran like overwhelming evidence that the Indians are indeed descended from the lost tribes of Israel. So at first it's like, oh, I don't know, man. But then after a while it's like, oh, okay, well, you know what? I just have to fucking admit defeat, which is what all of you stubborn, rebellious Negroes are gonna have to do. Upon his return to Cartagena, this is page 365, the Judaizing Montesino had found himself accused by the Inquisition and put in prison. Praying for the salvation in his cell one day, he was reciting what was then the standard formula among the New World Moranos. Moranos means converts, like Jewish converts, right? Blessed be the name of the Lord who has not made me an idolater, a barbarian, a Negro, or an Indian. Now, barbarians are white people. The other Edomites. A Negro and an Indian. When he stopped, those Indians, he told himself, they are Hebrews. Two men waited. Okay, so this is later on in the page. So he goes through his, so this is Montesino's time. He says, two men waited for me. Eventually, a canoe appeared bearing three men and a woman. All of them Indians, to the place where Francisco and Montesinos were standing at the water's edge. Francisco is the Indian, remember we read earlier, Montesinos' Indian guide. The women got off and spoke to Francisco in an Indian tongue that Montesinos could not understand, although he could perceive that he was being identified in the conversation. Upon hearing the words, he arose, went over to Montesinos and said, to his utter astonishment, and said, so this Francisco, these Indians came to Montesino and said, Shema Yisrael Adonai Elohinu Adonai Echad, which is, hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one, which is actually Shema Yashra Allah, Yahweh Allahayana, Yahweh Akkad. They have recited in Hebrew the fundamental credo of Judaism. So these natives were quoting the Shema. Now we go to another book called The View of the Hebrews. Wait, actually, yeah, I gotta go. Hold on, because I got James Adair's book first accidentally. Hold on. Let's see. Okay, so this is like the introduction to this book. Hold on. It's called A View of the Hebrews by Ethan Smith, first edition, Charles D. Tate Jr., second edition, Provo, Utah, BYU Religious Studies Center, 1996. This is from BYU. So it says, look, this is an extracts of a letter from Reverend Jabez B. Hyde of Eden, Erie County, New York, dated February 1st, 1825. After having read the first edition of this work, he says, quote, I have been in the sentiment of your book that the natives of our country are the outcasts of Israel. It cannot be well doubted by anyone, can't be doubted by anyone, man, who has become acquainted with the religious ceremonies of the Indians, man. So if you actually, know some fucking natives, then you would know this shit is true. I live fucking minutes from a reservation, man. I grew up with natives my whole goddamn life. I'm freaking basically 3/4 native and 1/4 Negro. So I know what the fuck is up, dude. But that they have a manifest shadow of the Mosaic rituals. Most of the particulars you have mentioned in your book, I know to be facts, and were observed by the Seneca Indians. When I first came among them, the chiefs invited me to call to all their celebrations. For some time, when I could make it convenient, I attended. So this reverend is like, yeah, man, I attest to your book. You're right, man. The Senecas, they were caught saying Yahweh, they were caught saying Hallelujah, man. Like, I'm not gonna go through. I'm trying to save some time. So I'm already going a lot over, but that's look, it's I don't even know. It's just, come on, man. In all their rites, which I have learned from them, there is a certainty. There's certainly a most striking similitude to the Mosaic rituals, the feasts of ingathering, first fruits, peace offerings, sacrifice. They build an altar of stone. They burn tobacco in the tents for incense, which was quantum basham, really. The fire taken from the altar of the burnt offering. Man, they just did everything. Everything was like Israel. Everything, man. I don't know what the hell else to do for you guys, man. Look. If you touched a dead body, you were unclean. Dead human body for certain days. See, separated the females. As you notice of other Indians in your book, these Indians are well acquainted that formerly places like the cities of refuge existed. So see, they even had cities of refuge. They separated their women in the times of uncleanness. All this shit, man. Like, I don't know what the fuck else. Look, this is from another guy, from Reverend Dr. Prudiff, this fucking doctor of Salem, New York, Salem, February 1825. Reverend and esteemed brother, I have examined with no inconsiderable interest your view of the Hebrews, and have been highly entertained and instructed from the view given of their language and from the similarity of their customs and religious rites with those of ancient Israel, from the belief in the existence of one great spirit as the creator and judge of the world, from their existing in tribes during the lapse of so many ages, from the coincidence of their traditions with the events recorded in the inspired volume, which is the Torah, we have, in my opinion, satisfactory evidence that the aborigines of our country are the remnant of the 10 tribes of Israel. I am much gratified to hear that you are preparing a second edition with additional facts and evidences. If my name may have any influence to introduce this work to the patronage of the religious public, you have liberty to use it for the purpose, that the blessing of Israel's God may accompany this. So see, they were trying to get blessings at first, and then they decided that they couldn't be doing this shit, and they flipped it. That's why they gave this doctrine, not doctrine, but they gave this truth, these insights to the Mormons, so that they could spin it and make it seem like it came from them. But this is much before. View of the Hebrews. This is page 43. I know it's hard to 43. My present object is rather to attend to the present state of the 10 tribes of Israel. This branch of the Hebrew family have long been outcasts, out of the sight, or unknown as Hebrews. The question arises, are they in existence as a distinct people? If so, who or where are they? These are the questions of great moment for this period, where the time of their restoration is drawing near. These queries may receive an answer of the following pages. Some preliminary remarks will be made, and then arguments adduced relative to the present state of the tribes of Israel. So see, it says that they would be recovered with the 2 sticks. He goes through scriptures, man. This guy even goes through and breaks down scriptures. Look, he even says outcast, what Judah Naz was talking about, and what we keep telling you. Look, when the restoration of the Hebrews is predicted to Isaiah, that God will in the last days set up an ensign for the nations, it is to assemble the outcasts of Israel and gather together the dispersed of Judah from the 4 corners of the earth. Mark the distinction. The Jews are dispersed, scattered over the nations as Jews, as they have long been known to be, which is, they try to spin it with those Jews, but we know the black Jews, the so-called Negroes, they were the dispersed. But Israel are outcasts, cast out from the nations, from society, from the social world, from the knowledge of men, as being Hebrews. This distinction is repeatedly found in the prophets. The dispersed state of the Jews as Jews is a most notable idea of the prophetic scriptures, but of Israel the following language is used. Of Isaiah, it says, the Lord God who gathered the outcasts of Israel saith, accordingly when Israel was recovered and united, the Jews at the last, the Jews expressed. So basically he's showing you there's a difference between outcast and dispersed. The northern tribes were outcasted. That's why the band Outcast. And then there's the dispersed of Judah, man. Come on, guys. We're just gonna skip that. How perfectly do we here find the describe the long outcasts of the state of Israel in the vast wilderness of a sequestered part of the world, where yet God would keep them in existence and make a provision for them eventually to come to light. As his long rejected lamb, is Ephraim a dear child? For since I spake against him, I do earnestly remember him still. So he even equates it, man. He's all there, the Ephraim tribes, man. Everything. If you just read the damn prophets, you could tell. But that's the fucking problem. I know you guys. You guys don't like to motherfucking read. None of you like to read. Ever. 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 Look, they did the annual feasts, man. They did everything, man. They this is page 50. And many other things you find among this newly discovered people, which seem exclusively to have been derived from the ceremonial code of ancient Israel. So see, come on, man. Look, the Apocrypha, the tribes of Israel. Man, this is... Everybody knows. Everybody knows. Why don't you guys? You know what I mean? Like, what? Look, the North American reviewers, in reviewing a sermon of Dr. Jarvis on this subject delivered before the New York Historical Society, in which he attempts to adduce much evidence to show that the natives of this continent are the tribes of Israel. Remark thus, the history and the character of the Indians of the tribes of the North America, which have for some time... Man, people after fucking people after fucking people, dude. The Indians are descendants of Israel, man. Samuel Sewall, fellow of Harvard College, and Samuel Willard, vice president of the same, were of the opinion, man. This is Harvard, man. Like, I don't... What the fuck? What is the matter with you guys? Like, I'm sorry I'm so pissed off, but I'm fucking tired of Israelites being against Israelites. It's enough that the goddamn other nations treat us like shit and laugh at us and do whatever the hell they want to us and keep us in oppression. It's about goddamn time that we stop doing it to our fucking selves. Am I right or am I wrong? So you guys need to quit your shit speaking against the northern tribes like this, man. This is fucking ridiculous already. You guys are starting to look real stupid. Like, real fucking stupid. Manasseh ben Israel, in a work entitled The Hope of Israel, so here it again, has written to show that the American Indians are of the 10 tribes of Israel. Look, the American Indians, 1774, man, this is it. He quotes Adair too, man, like See, and then he even mentions Amos. Look, there is a prophecy in Amos relative to the 10 tribes of Israel while in their state of banishment from the promised land, which appears exactly to accord with the account given by Esdras. The American natives, 10 tribes of Israel. Israel. That's all you see, man. That's all you fucking see, man. Like, what? I don't know what else to do for you guys, man. Dr. Boudinot, who for more than 40 years was of the opinion that the native Indians are of the 10 tribes and who sought and obtained much evidence on this subject, assures us that the syllables which compose the word Yahweh and Yah are the roots of a great number of Indian words. So a great number of words had Yah in it, man. Like, I don't... Oh, this is where it gets good. Okay, you know, because you got some people, oh, well, you know, the Aztecs and the Toltecs were Israelites, but the North American, you know, they try to make a difference between natives. This is bullshit. This is to be asserted, is sung in South as well as North America, and this author says 2 Indians who belong to far distant nations may, without the knowledge of each other's language, except from the general idiom of all their tribes, converse with each other and make contracts without an interpreter. This shows them to have been of one origin. How come all the natives were fucking dealing with each other then? From North America all the way down to South America, they were all dealing with each other, man. The Mayans fucking invented basketball. Yeah, that's right. Native Americans invented fucking goddamn basketball. And when they did that shit, they took it everywhere. They took it to all the rest of the tribes, man. Man, you do not know fucking history. No, you don't. Because you guys are retards. I'm sorry, but I'm for real, man. For real. What do you do? And if these words and parts of the sentences are from their corresponding Hebrew, the Indians must have descended from the 10 tribes of Israel. The Creek Indians called a number called a murder Abe, probably from Abel, like Noabe, like they man, oh man, oh man, man, oh man, man. I don't know what you all gonna do. What you all gonna do? Alright, now, shit. It's getting ridiculous, man. I've showed so much already. Look, the history of the American Indians from James Adair, circa 1709-1775, published in London, 1775. Dr. Kathy E. Holland Brond, PhD, editor and introduction. You could read the whole thing at encyclopediaofalabama.org. They have this at the Encyclopedia of Alabama. So you could go check it out for your motherfucking damn self. But, you know, since I'm cool like that, I'll go ahead and show you a couple of pages from it. Just to show you that, you know, I'm not pulling shit out of my ass, man. I don't understand why, you know, because I know this just ain't gonna be good enough for people because, you know, I put it together. But just to show you that I'm not fucking speaking out my damn ass because, you know, everybody's fucking retarded. Let's get a couple of things from James Adair's books. Okay, here we go. See that? James Adair, page 78. But notwithstanding, they are commonly negligent of any other tribe but their own. They regard their own particular lineal descent in a strict manner as did the Hebrew nation. So basically, that, and you could read this in many spots, the Indians saw themselves as a holy people, separated from everybody, above everybody, just like we do. Like, this is just, it's, come on. By a strict permanent, is argument 2, by a strict permanent divine precept, the Hebrew nation were ordered to worship at Jerusalem, Jehovah the true living God. Right, blah, blah, blah. Okay, hold on. Let's get some shit. Again, the ceremonies of the Indians and their religious worships are more after the Mosaic institution than of pagan imitations. So it's more Mosaic than it is pagan. There is no pagan. You know where they got the pagan shit from? You know, if there was any pagan shit going down, because there was a little bit, that's why the conquistadors got sent. The only reason why they started picking up the pagan shit was because the Danites brought it to them. That's right. The Danites, who were the fucking Vikings, were exiled out of Europe during 300 and 500 AD. I've got all the evidence for it. I'm going to do a video on it. 300 AD, and then a second exile in 500 AD. And those fools migrated to where? Mexico. And they dispersed amongst the tribes here, and they taught them idolatry. Dan, that goes into the Genesis scripture that says Dan is a serpent. A serpent. They called Quetzalcoatl the feathered serpent. That's who Quetzalcoatl was, man. It was the fucking Dan. It was the Danites. It was the Vikings. They came as the serpent people because those are the serpent people. They are the serpent. What does it say? That they are an adder. A serpent, by the way, that bites the horse's heel to make the rider fall off backwards. That's what the Danites did. They went around everywhere making Israel fall backwards. The Israelites left fucking Assyria to come to America to follow the laws. They did for the most part until the Danites showed up and introduced paganry into it. It reintroduced the mysteries. And I've got all the shit for it, man. You guys aren't even ready for this shit, man. You fucking whack-ass motherfuckers. Which could not be if the majority of the old natives were of heathenish descent. So it couldn't be, man. See, none of them were of heathenish descent. They couldn't be possible. For all bigots and enthusiasts will fight to the death for the very shadow of their superstitions. Worship, when they have even lost all the substance, there yet remain so many marks as to enable us to trace the Hebrew extraction and rites through all the various nations of the Indians, and we may with a great deal of probability conclude that if any heathens accompanied them to the Americas, so even if they did, or were settled in it before them, which is not true because Second Esdras or the Bible, the scriptures tell us that no man dwelt here before, they became proselytes of justice, and their pagan rites and customs were swallowed up in the Jewish. So even if there was, they got mixed out, man. And they're not even, look, there's not perhaps any one language or speech except the Hebrew and the Indian American which has not a great many of prepositions. The Indians, like the Hebrews, have none in separate and express words. They are forced to join certain characters to words in order to supply that great defect. The Hebrew consonants called, so basically that just he's breaking it down. Basically, that the native language is set up as the same way as the Hebrew language. It's the fucking same shit, man. It's the same shit. Ah, I didn't mean to do that. Sorry, we're not there yet. Damn it. Sorry, Israel. I'm fucking up. All right. So now we got that. So hold on. Let me make sure. Okay, yeah. So history of the American Indians, James Adair. Go check that shit out. We got a couple more books to go through. We got the 10 Tribes of Israel by Barbara Simon, page 27. It says, quote, "The America has been discovered nearly 200 years before reflecting minds had begun to inquire into the peculiarities of its first inhabitants. So, besides the friars and the people that first inhabited them, nobody really cared of who the Indians were until a couple hundred years later. And as those people, instead of collecting evidence from corresponding facts, so all you Indians aren't natives, aren't Israelites, instead of you guys collecting evidence from corresponding facts, you give at once your own speculations as the end of inquiry. So all you do is speculate. This is your inquiry. This is the end of your studies. The end of everything is your own fucking speculations. We have only a mass of contradictory theories. That's what all you guys are. You guys are just a mass of contradictory theories. You guys don't know jack shit. Don't know jack shit. And this is how you break a foot off in a motherfucker's ass. All right, now we go to the Jewish Encyclopedia. Now, I just copy-pasted this from the Jewish Encyclopedia, but I'm just going to read a little bit just to prove to you I'm not shitting out my ass. In the 4th book of Esdras, blah, 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 it is declared that the 10 tribes were carried by Hosea, king of the time of Salmanazar, to the Euphrates at the narrow passages. You see 1, 2. Okay. I actually have the website because, I know you guys don't believe shit. Okay, hold on. Okay. What the hell? Hold on. Give me a second, Israel. I didn't pull up exactly what I wanted. Oh man, where the hell? Hold on, give me a sec. Hold on, I'm just gonna fucking click on the link. Hold on. So I clicked on the link, brings you to 10 Lost Tribes. You can check it out. We're gonna scroll down to where it talks about America, the North American Indians. Alright, here we go. Immediately after the discovery of Central and South America, the legend of the Lost Tribes began to be referred to the Aboriginal inhabitants. Garcia, so right after, man. Garcia, in his Origin of de los Medianos, in 1607, pages 179 through 128, declares that the tribes passed through the Strait of Ananai, or the Bering Strait. So some of them keep trying to push that Bering Strait shit, and went the way to Mexico and South America. He deduces their identity from the common cowardice and want of charity of the Israelites and Indians. Both of these peoples, according to him, bury their dead on hills, give kisses on the cheek as a sign of peace, tear their clothes as a sign of mourning, and dance as a sign of triumph. Garcia claims to have found many Hebrew terms in the American language. Okay, so hold on. I wanted to, cause I didn't get that first part, but I think that's cause hold on. I don't know where the hell that shit went, but you can go check it out yourself. I have the shit written down. Okay, so here again we have, according to Manasseh ben Israel, Antonio Montezino disposed in 1654 before the Bet Din of Amsterdam that while traveling in Peru he had met with a number of natives that recited the Shema in Hebrew and had informed him that an interpreter that there were Israelites descended from Reuben and that the tribe of Joseph dwelt in the midst of the sea. Says he supported their statements by tracing Jewish customs among other inhabitants of Central and South America, the Indians of Yucatan and the Mexicans. Oh, sorry, Israel, I'm getting kind of uncomfortable. Gotta switch positions for a sec. Sorry. Getting uncomfortable. Mexicans rent their garments in mourning and kept perpetual fires upon their altars, as so did the Peruvians. The Mexicans kept the Jubilee, which links in with the Jubilee calendar, the Enochian calendar. I could break that down into the Temple Torah teachings. It's a solar lunar calendar, just like we are the solar lunar man. While the Indians of Peru and Guatemala observed the customs of levirate marriage, so they did the customs of the Levite marriages. There was Levites among us, man, I'm telling you. Manasseh ben Israel therefore concluded that the aboriginal inhabitants of the Americas were the 10 lost tribes, as he was of the opinion that the Messiah would come after the whole world was inhabited by the descendants of Israel. He directed his efforts to obtaining admission from the Jews to the British Islands, from which they were at the time excluded. So this dude just tried to use the fact that they found us over here to try to get the Jews back into England because they got kicked out by King James. Let's see. The Mexican theory was later taken up by Viscount Kingsborough, who devoted his life and fortune to proving the thesis that the Mexicans were descended of the 10 lost tribes, and published a magnificent and expensive work on the subject, Antiquities of Mexico, 9 volumes, 1837 through 45. Kingsborough's chief arguments are the Mexicans and Israelites believe in both the devils and angels, as well as in miracles and the use of blood of the sacrifice in the same way, namely, by pouring it on the ground. Also on the high priest of Peru is the only one allowed to enter the innermost holy part of the temple, and that the Peruvians anointed the ark, as did the Israelites. So he also finds many similarities in the myths and legends. Thus the certain Mexican heroes are said to have wrestled with Quetzalcoatl like Jacob with the angel. Antiquities of Mexico, volume 7. So now it's funny because that's where sumo wrestling comes from, man. Jacob, why the the Japanese brothers down in Japan, that's why they do sumo wrestling, because sumo comes from the word Shamao, which is his name, you know what I mean? Because Jacob got his name changed to Israel, so that's why the sumo wrestlers do sumo. It's a way to remember when Jacob wrestled with the angel, and he says that they we have the same thing, that the Mexican heroes wrestled with Quetzalcoatl. Now, I just want to bring this out real fast. The Secret Teachings of All Ages, Manly P. Hall, he says the same thing. It's written about this guy, this Viscount Kingsborough. It's mentioned in here that he knew that we were Israelites as well. Watch, check it out. Where is it at? Hold on, sorry Israel, I'm trying to... Hold on, give me 1 second. I should have got the page number. I didn't. I'm just kind of winging this part. I shouldn't have done that though. Hold on, give me a sec. It's where it talks about Jesus. Judah Naz style. Jesus.
White African Space Christ?
Alright, White African Space Christ, man. The crucifixion of Quetzalcoatl. There's Quetzalcoatl. Lord Kingborough, right? It says that he went to prove that the Mexicans are descendants of the Jews. I know it's hard to read, it's very small, but that's what he's saying. So Manly P. Hall even has it recorded that Kingsborough went to seek out and to prove that we are indeed the Jews. Someone here? No. Oh, it's Laban. Laban just showed up. Ah, yes. Let's see. North American Indians. Let's get it. Manasseh ben Israel's views were taken up by T. Thorogood and his Jews in America, London, 1650. And he was followed by the Apostle Eliot in a publication 10 years later, and their views referring now to the more North American Indians instead of the Mexicans and Peruvians. So instead of Central and South America, because those are well established by this point in the 1600s that they are Israelites, now they center their attention on the North American Indians. And this view was adopted by Cotton Mather, Roger Williams, even William Penn S. Sewall also gave expression in 1697 to the same views in a special publication. Do you know how many fucking people? I'm going to go back to my chart and we're going to count this shit up, man. See how many people are talking about that were Israelites. Look, and it gets even worse, man. Look, it gets even worse. Look, Charles Beatty, in his Journal of 2 Months' Tour, London, 1678, declares that he had found among the Delaware Indians traces of Israelitish origin. James Adair, in his History of the American Indians, we saw that, devotes a considerable amount of attention to the same view, which he accepts. Adair was followed by Jonathan Edwards. A special work was written by E. Boudinot, A Star in the West, Trenton, New Jersey, 1816, and he was followed by followed by Ethan Smith, and we got that. Ethan Smith's book, and by Israel Worsley, A View of the American Indians, showing them to be descendants of the lost tribes of Israel, London, 1828. Mordecai M. Noah accepted the Israelitish origin of the Indians in 1837 in a pamphlet published by Marriott's Diary in America, Volume 2. J.B. Finley claimed to have been found traces among the Indians of London, 1841. Discovery... Oh, man, I'm so sorry, Israel. Allergies are starting to kick in. I'm going to have to try to finish this out before they get in too bad. Discovery pamphlet published Marriott's Diary, J.B. Finley says the views had even been considered by George Catlin in his Manners of the North American Indians. Discoveries of alleged Hebrew tablets at Pittsfield, Massachusetts in 1815 and Newark, Ohio about 1860. There's also Los Lunas. So there's so much archaeology, it's not even funny. Have given fresh vigor to the theory. Altogether, with the exception of the Anglo-Israelite claims, so besides saying that, Edomites are Israelites, a large amount of literature has been written on this identification than on any other. So the native Indians of North, Central, and South America have been identified with the 10 lost tribes of Israel in more books and by more people than any other people, subject, place, thing in the history of whatever. Okay, I wanted to get this real quick because in the fourth book of Esdras, right, it says that we came to the passages of the river. It says, Schiller Sinzi pointed out that Arzareth is merely a contraction of Aharet, the other land, in which the Lord says he will cast them, the people, as to this day. Now, Arzareth, let's hit up Arzareth real quick because I got some shit on that. Arzareth, JewishEncyclopedia.com. Arzareth, the name of the land beyond the great river, far away from the habitation of man, in which the 10 tribes of Israel will dwell, observing the laws of Moses until the time of the restoration. According to 4th Esdras or 2nd Esdras, Columbus identified America with this land. So right there, it's America. It's America, man. You guys are just gonna have to get over it. It means the other land, man. It's America. It's America. America, fuck yeah. Coming again to save the motherfucking day, yeah. Alright. I think we're almost done, Israel. Just hang in there with me a couple more seconds. Let us see what else we can find. Alright. So many people talking about it. It's not even funny. And then here's some more little interesting tidbits, just for whatever. Columbus and Christianity. Did you know? Little known facts about Christopher Columbus and Christianity in the Americas. Thomas S. Giles is project editor for Christianity Today, July 1st, 1992. You could go see this at site ctlibrary.com. I provided all the links. Contrary to legend, Columbus did not sail to prove the earth was round. Most educated Europeans and mariners already knew that. Columbus estimated the size of the Atlantic Ocean partially from reading his Bible. He had read the second book of Esdras in the Apocrypha that God created the world in 7 parts, 6 of them dry land and the 7th water. He thus calculated that the ocean separating Portugal from Japan was 1/7 of the Earth's circumference, or about 2,400 miles. He figured that by sailing 100 miles per day, he could reach the Indies in 30 days. So he knew the world was round, and just for, if we keep going, he knew what he was doing. He knew that he was coming here to find Israelites. Next, now, if you want to check this out, I'm not gonna fucking read it, man, because it's already played out and it's already done. pbs.org, Nova Online. Where are the 10 lost tribes of Israel? If you look, it says New World Part 1, New World Part 2. It gives a bunch of different people that are Hebrew Israelites, and look who also is included in this little group. So not only do you have Native American Indians of North and South America, but you also have the Japanese. Oh, the Japanese. But we shall hit that up in another video. Let's see. So we have the Japanese, Hebrews. Let's keep going. Let's keep on. Oh, Scheisse. Okay. Now we're on this book. We're going to try to knock it out fast as we're getting up to 40 minutes, and I don't want to fucking sit here all day. 10 Tribes of Israel, Timothy R. Jenkins. Quote, a government officer stationed at Lake Superior at an early day before any white settlers had invaded that part of the country, after becoming acquainted with a number of Indian tribes, found that one tribe was in possession of a copper tube tightly soldered. When asked what it contained, they said that they were not able to tell, but they had received it from their ancestors a long time ago. The officer finally prevailed upon them to let him open the article, so basically he killed them and took it. And when he did so, he found it filled with parchment, with inscriptions he could not read. But by sending the parchment to Washington City, where it was examined by competent Hebrew scholars, it was declared to be part of the 5 books of Masha, or the Kamash, the Torah, the Tawarah, man. This is page 16 from this book. Oops. I hate that it does that shit, man. It skips up too far. Okay. It is also said that the Nuarakalas believed that they dwelt in another region before they settled in Mexico, that their forefathers wandered 8 years in search of it through a strict obedience to the command of the Great Spirit, who ordered them to go in the quest of new lands, that they had such that had such particular marks as were made known to them, and they punctually obeyed the divine mandate, and by the means found out and settled the fertile country of Mexico. Our southern Indians have also a tradition among them which firmly believe that of old time their ancestors lived beyond a great river, that 9 parts out of the 10 of them, their nation, passed over the river. Oh wow, 9 tribes of Israel, right? But the remainder refused and stayed behind. The remainder of those tribes, so basically 90% of the Israelites came over here. The rest of them stayed and migrated to Japan and the Aboriginal Australia, to the Solomon Islands, to the Hawaiian Islands. We went to the islands of the sea, man. It is said among their principals or beloved men that they have had and handed down from their ancestors that the book that the white people have had was once theirs. So this is talking about the Bible. That while they had it, they prospered exceedingly, but that the white people bought it from them and learned many things from it. Oh wow, sounds familiar, right? While the Indians lost their credit, they offended the Great Spirit and suffered exceedingly from the neighboring nations. So this was over there in the land. This is what happened to them. That the Great Spirit took pity on them and directed them to this country. That on their way came to a great river they could not pass, when the Great Spirit dried the waters and they passed over dry shod. And this is what happened over there. And then they came over here. This is page 80. Extensive regions of North and South America have and retain these expressive Hebrew words and repeat them so distinctly, applying them after the manner of the Hebrews in their religious acclamations, page 153. Also their religious dances, for then they sing their hymns addressed to Yohewa or Yahweh. Oh, so, there's another one for you. So Mr. Edwards, in his History of the Indies, says, West Indies, the striking conformity of the prejudices and customs of the Caribbean Indians to the practices of the Jews has not escaped the notice of the historians, as Gumele and Duterte. So these are more people, just more on top of people, on top of people, on top of people. And others, Adair, who was the most careful observer of the Indians' whole economy, both public and private, and had best opportunity of knowing it, without much danger of deception beyond any other writer. So this dude, James Adair, Many people are accrediting this dude and talking this dude up like he knows what he's talking about. So if you're gonna try to come against him, you're fucking stupid. Because this dude says he was not in danger of deception more beyond than any other writer. So he was the least to deceive. Gives his opinion in the following words: "It is a very difficult thing to divest ourselves of prejudice and favored opinions, and I expect to be censored for opposing commonly received sentiments." So this dude, James Adair, was expected to be censored, man. He expected to be censored because he went against the flow, man. Because they were saying that the Indians were Canaanites, man, or Asian and all that shit, man. He was against all that. It says, "But the truth is my object, and from the most exact observations I could make in the long time I traded among the Indians in the Americas, I was forced to believe them to be literally descended from the Israelites." Page 185. So right there, Israelites again. Oh, I don't know what y'all gonna do. We're not even done yet, man. This is ridiculous. It's gonna be like a fucking 10-parter. The Sails of Hope: Secret Missions of Christopher Columbus by Simon Wiesenthal. Oh, that's a Jew. Why did Columbus take an interpreter of Hebrew with him? So see, Columbus had an interpreter of Hebrew, and why the fuck would he do that? Hebrew was not the language of any country in the known world. The only possible explanation must be that Columbus expected to be reaching countries in which Jews lived and governed, because he read 2nd Esdras, like we read earlier, and he fucking knew he was going to find us here. He says, the fact Columbus provided himself with an interpreter of Hebrew proves that he at least hoped to encounter Hebrew-speaking peoples. Page 172. So he knew what was up. Quote, "The first to broach this possibility was Bishop de las Casas, who spent most of his long life in the New World, wrote a number of invaluable accounts of the Indians and their customs. When the Spaniards reached the mainland of South America and conquered the kingdom of Peru, they were again disposed to look for evidence that the Peruvians were of Jewish origin. In 1607, Gregorio Garcia expressed the view that the first inhabitants of the Americas had been Jewish." Page 216. So, again, Jewish, Hebrew, Jewish. Quote, "Scholars now began to approach the problem from a scientific point of view, drawing upon the old accounts of the first voyagers, explorers, and missionaries." So they pulled up all the first accounts. They noted many parallels in basic religious tenets, including the belief in the life after death, in religious customs and dream interpretations, in religious sacrifices, and the appointment of the day of rest, a Sabbath. Familiar features can also be found in the myths of the Indians and the ancient Hebrews. The Spanish ecclesiastic Roldan undertook to prove a common origin between the Jews and the original inhabitants of America on the basis of linguistical evidence. He had studied the language of the Indians in Haiti, Cuba, and Jamaica, and the neighboring islands, and maintained that it showed similarities to Hebrew. Page 217. Because it fucking was Hebrew, man. Because it fucking was Hebrew. You guys know what it is by now. The names of Cuba and Haiti were, to Roland's mind, of Hebrew origin. He believed that much of the basic vocabulary and common names in use among the Indians likewise came from the Hebrew. They had been forbidden to touch the dead, to drink blood, or to eat on a certain specific fast day, which is some Nazarite vow shit, which I can show you. Natives did dreadlocks. Oh, we gonna hit it all, buddy. They married their sisters-in-law of these were widowed while childless, like the Israelites. So they did the whole next to kin. Like the Israelites, they sacrificed first fruits and made offerings to their God on high mountains under shady trees. There's where we start blaspheming. They had temples and a sacred object in that in the wartime they carried before them, as the Israelites had the Ark of the Covenant. The fundamental religious view of both Jews and Indians consisted in the belief of a single omnipotent God. Page 218. The religious-based ceremonies of the daily life among the Indians bore an extraordinary resemblance to those of the Jews. This was particularly true of childbirth, naming, marriage recovery from illness, plowing from the soil, and fishing. Similarities can also be observed in the